All right. What's going on, everybody? Hello, online community 343 Lab viewers that have been coming through and joining us on a weekly basis. Welcome back. For those of you who are just joining us for the first time, glad to have you. We're going to post up here for a little bit and just wait and let this live stream resonate throughout the digital world and get some more folks up in here. My name is Atropolis. I'm an instructor here at 343 Labs. You can catch me online, and we are about to step into some feedback sessions. Every Saturday at 1 p.m., I will be joining you, so you can submit your tracks to Atropolis at 343labs.com. I'm going to put that in the chat right now. I'll be picking up my phone to monitor the chat and to see what's going on. Vincent, I already got your track. I don't know if you're in here yet. Andrew Duke, what is good? 343 Labs, awesome. 343 Hassan, looking good. Awesome, awesome, awesome. Hello, Diane. Welcome, welcome. So let me just get the chat up right so I could try to talk to you guys directly. So give me 1 second. Sometimes when we do these multiple stream, when it goes to multiple areas, the chatting on my end can be a little challenging. So just apologize for the delay. But yeah, that's the deal. For those of you who have joined us, if you can figure out my email, atropolis at 343, here we go. No. So yeah, Thomas, who works at 343 Labs, awesome producer as well, super talented beat maker. Thomas, if you could just enter in my email and let the folks know that all you have to do to submit your track to get some feedback is to email it to me, atropolis at 343labs.com. May it be what kind of music genre? Anything. I mean, it's your music, right? So this is designed for us to give. We're gonna listen, and if there's anything we feel needs some critiquing, whether it's the mix, the arrangement, the sound design, or maybe it sounds great and you don't need any critiquing. I will be honest. So whatever music you're making, we are open to everything. Uh, yeah, yeah, of course. Thank you, Diane. Thanks for joining us. So I'm gonna pop over. We do have Vincent lined up. I haven't seen Vincent in the chat yet. Scott Vincent, my bad. Maybe he is in the chat. So the bird photo is by me. Beautiful, Scott. Awesome, awesome. So we got Scott lined up. Let me just go into the stream chat. Scott, are you with us? I don't want to start without you. So just give us a shout. I know there's a little bit of a delay. We got about 20 to 30 seconds of delay between the moment I speak and the moment you hear me. So bear with the delay, guys. I'm going to drink some water and wait. Scott Vincent, give us a shout. And as we're waiting for the submissions to roll into my email, 343 Labs has just posted it. I'd like to just, let you guys know we got a lot of free, awesome events, streaming events like this one on a daily basis. So lots of great community events going on. 343 Labs streaming, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube. But if you want to go deeper, you got to check out our classes at 343labs.com. We've got a lot of virtual classes. Our school in Berlin is open if you're in Europe. And we are about to open up our doors in New York City. So that's awesome. If you're feeling comfortable and ready to get out, we're taking all the precautions to keep social distancing and to keep a sterile, clean, and safe environment for everybody. So if you're curious, we got 343labs.com. We got virtual classes online, and we got some physical classes in Berlin and pretty soon in New York City. I'm going to pop back to the chat, see if our boy Scott is in the house. All right, Scott, great. We're about to pop off with you. Where can I have the feedback? YXNWR. Well, you can email me your track. If you scroll up, atropolis at 343labs.com. You email me the track, I will play it and give you feedback right here verbally. Okay, so that's how it's going to work. And we have until 1 o'clock. So let's pop it off. We got Rise by Scott Vincent. He's got some beautiful artwork. That is a photo that he took. I'm assuming you're a photographer as well. It's a beautiful photo, which you guys will see momentarily. Just give me a shout if the audio gets messed up or if you guys can't quite hear this track. So we got Scott Vincent. This track is Rise by Scott Vincent. I'm going to hit play, switch my screen over, and get started. So let's take a listen. All right. Nice. Rise by Scott Vincent. I'm going to pop over to the chat and just see. Scott, you got anything in particular? You know, I always ask, and for those of you who are going to submit or are thinking about submitting, I always want you to, I mean, you don't have to if you don't have anything to ask. You just want to see what I have to say. But if there's something particular that you are not sure about with your production, the chat would be the best place to share that. Or when you email me the track, email me whatever concerns you have as well. So that's a cool track. I'm feeling that high energy, fast tempo, motivational song vibe for sure. Got a duck taking off and flag getting up there. So some good energy, some stuff that we need right now in these times. So it's a nice track, Vincent. Really different, Scott. You know, it's cool to see another side of you. Last time you shared more of like an ambient track. This one's a little bit, you know, more on the heavier side. So I'm gonna give you some critiques on the track in the beginning, in the opening, really opening parts, like early intro, the early seconds of the song, less than a minute. You might want to double check your kicks. There sounds like, and I'm not sure, I have to double check this. So this is a small critique or small detail, and I might be wrong, but it sounds like you might have copied and pasted your kicks, and there might be a MIDI note kind of doubling before the kick hits on the downbeat, and you have a little bit of a stutter. It only happens once in the beginning. So just a small like MIDI, might be just a minor MIDI edit you might have to look at. And you're going to want to look at your MIDI clip and scroll and go all the way to the end. And there might be a sliver of a MIDI note that's just getting triggered right before that downbeat. And it just sounds like a little bit of a doubling. So that's a minor thing. Now, when it comes to the mix, so the mix would be the area that I think this track could use some work with. Your tom drums, so it's often a question and it's always confusing in the beginning when you hear an instructor or producer and they're like, oh, you got to tune your drums. And people are, you know, maybe you play an instrument, not maybe you don't play the drums. Maybe you play like the flute or guitar, you sing, and you have a concept of tone and pitch. But then when you play the drums, you're not really thinking about that. So when you're here tuning a drum, you're like, what does that mean? Well, kick drums, certain kick drums, um, especially the 808 kick drum, which is a digital kick drum that has a bass tone in it. The 808 kick drum has a G0 frequency in it. G0 is 50 hertz. 50 hertz, for some reason, translates really well on speakers, and it resonates really well with our hearing range. Humans physically can't understand low frequencies that accurately, which is why we struggle with bass to begin with. And my theory to why the 808 became so famous is because G0 just resonates really well with our physical attributes in terms of how our ears are built. So regardless of that, the 808 kick drum has a tone in it, G0. And I would have to be concerned if I'm trying to combine that kick drum with potentially a bass, which I would be careful with, or let's just say a chord progression, I could potentially have a conflict of pitch. And I might have to tune my kick drum because of the tone of the G0. And that's where I'm going to have to find my transposition. So when it comes to drums, there are many different drums that have tones to them, but the tom drum, which you have a lot of toms, that's like that's the drive of this rhythm. Toms and kicks can have tones in them. And your tom drums, the tones of your tom drums are conflicting a little bit with your lower frequencies, whether it's your bass or it's the chords. So you might want to play with the tunings of your tom drums a little bit. You also need to tighten things up with your reverbs and your time-based effects and your low frequencies overall. You need to do some EQing across the board. I'm gonna just kind of hop over to Ableton real quick, just to give you kind of a hypothetical visual of the type of EQing I think everyone could benefit from, not just Scott. Okay, so and this is EQing that I do on my tracks. Okay, so again, this is like hypothetical. I'm just showing you an EQ. Going to my audio effects, EQ8. This is a tip for everybody, not just Scott. I don't know who in their right mind saved this crazy. I got to resave this. My default opens up really strange. It's really annoying. Okay, so here is my high pass filter, or we can call it a low cut filter. It's kind of confusing. High pass, high. It allows for the frequencies, the high frequencies, to pass while cutting the low frequencies. Oftentimes, you know, the bass, sub bass, kick drums, that stuff can exist around, 35 hertz up to 150 hertz, maybe a little higher. Things like hi-hats, things like synths, melodies, snares, they often will have, you'll see, you won't notice it, you won't think of it, but a lot of stuff has low frequencies. And when it comes to low frequencies, you want to kind of preserve that range for low frequency things like a tom, like a kick, like a bass. Me personally, and it's a pretty common technique, a lot of the times, me included, a lot of mixing engineers, we are going to clean up our lows and our highs. I would say the lows almost more importantly. I think low frequencies can be real silent killers to a track. So, Scott, you need to clean up your low ends a little bit across the board on your kicks, on your snares, on your hi-hats, on your reverbs. I'll show you where that is in a moment. I would suggest going. And for everybody, again, this is actually we can let me see if we get some audio. Thomas, if you're with me, let me know how this goes with the audio. Before I go too deep into this answer, I just want to check. Okay, we have 1, 2, 3 people. All right, so we got to move a little bit. We got 3 more people lined up. I'm just going to grab a snare drum and I apologize for those of you who are watching that already know this technique, but you might hear people being like, oh, you need to cut your lows, but you got to be careful. Don't just cut your lows just because people say you cut your lows. I'm going to give you a technique that shows you how to know where to cut your lows and how far to go just using your eyes and your ears. Okay, so I hope you guys can hear this snare. This is my high pass filter. So that's how you move. And you basically want to find that moment where the sound changes. That's the hot spot. You don't necessarily, I mean, unless you want to take away the bass where it sounds different. But if you're trying to find that spot where you can trim out the bass and the low end and start calming things down, because you have to understand, although you might not hear the low ends yet in hi-hats and snares and vocals and all this stuff, you have to understand it starts to add up, element over element over element over element. And this is a tip you're going to see online and on YouTube and here right now. And the biggest mistake is people are like, oh, I got to cut everything. And they just go and they just throw this thing on here. They don't use their ear. So this is the lesson. You have to use your ear. You take the filter and you move it until you hear the sound shift. And then that's when you want to go a little bit back towards the other way. Awesome. Okay, so that's where I get lost. That's where I start to change the sound. Now, if I want to change the sound, great, I'll go there. But now I know that it's right around here where my low frequencies start to impact the sound. And this is the stuff I start to just trim out the fat right here. Just trim this stuff out. I will go and do this to almost every single sound on my production. Now, the last thing I want to just talk about with Vincent Scott's track, reverb. This is reverb. If you're using Ableton's reverb, we can EQ the sound on 2 sides. So this EQs the sound before it goes into the reverb. Check it out. That's a kick, right? I don't want my reverb to respond to my kick. This EQs the sound before it goes into the reverb. Now, after the sound is reverberated, you can further EQ the reverberated sound. So if something happens, the resonance, maybe it's too high, too low, you can further EQ your sound. For example, I'm going to take out the lows. So these are areas that are incredibly important with your reverb. There's a lot of parameters on this thing. It's kind of confusing. Input processing and diffusion network are incredibly powerful areas to clean up your reverbs so they're not too muddy. So Scott, check out your EQs on your reverb, maybe calm down your decay times a little bit, and the dry wet. My last bit of information or feedback I want to get with you, Scott. Um, the track has a nice feel, and it has the energy is very constant, which is dope, which is great because it's nice to just have a track that's just very constant. I would be curious. I kind of wanted like a little bit more space. You have that space towards the last, the very end. I'd be curious to just have one section where really you can kind of have it breathe a little bit more and kind of like, calm it down for a longer period of time, maybe 16 bars, maybe 24 bars, just to get a little bit more contrast. All right, I'm going to move on, Scott. That's a dope track. Thank you so much for sharing. I hope the track is keep on making the music. This track was awesome. I like hearing and seeing the different sides of your production voice. So thanks for sharing. Keep on making the music. It's dope that you finished it from start to finish. Mixing is an ongoing process, and it's often one of the hardest things coming up to really wrap our heads around. So awesome. Scott, that's Rise by Scott Vincent. Thank you, everybody. I'm just going to flip the screen one last time so you can see it. Oop. Here it is. Okay, we got some folks on the deck. Diane Parker, awesome. Cool. Google Drive. All right, let's see what we got. And Diane Parker, Sonia. All right. Okay. All right, all right, all right. Boom. Let's get into it. Where did that track go? Why is it? Oh, it's still downloading. Okay. Yeah, Google Drive, if you guys can, WeTransfer or SoundCloud would be better. Google Drive is probably, it's so slow. I mean, I'm right now, I'm at my parent-in-law's house and they have very slow internet. So that's part of it. But furthermore, Google Drive is also just kind of tough. So let's see. And also furthermore, I'm just curious. Let me go back. So another heads up to you guys. Waves are awesome. So Diane, and for everybody, sharing your music with a record label, or if you guys are going to pitch to labels or send to PR or pitch to anything, whatever it is, you're sharing your music. Share MP3s every single time, okay? Because unless you're submitting your song for something very intense or something for final, when sharing music for feedback or even submitting your music for people to listen to, I highly recommend sending an MP3. So this is going to take a bit to download. Diane, you are up. We are going to get to you. As that download is going, we are just going to move forward. We'll come back to you, and we are going to check out Sonia's. Awesome. So how you doing, Sonia Maria? Thank you so much for joining us. We are going to get your track, and Diane, we will get to you. Your track is about halfway there, so just hang out with us for a little bit. We just got to move through it. Let's do this. All right, so where are we? Where are we? Over here. Let's hit play. Awesome. 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 Thank you so much. The Andalusian. I am going to try to pronounce the name of the track. I'm awful at pronouncing things, even in my own language. Tisfeteli, 1 through 3. And you guys can laugh at my pronunciation, but thank you so much, the Andalusian. That was a really dope track. Really very unique. Had a really unique character to it. I can assume I like your use of the sample, whatever sampling you started the track with and ended the track with. I would love to hear about it, where it came from. Uh, ah, yes. um, and me, I'm looking down at the chat, so sorry when I disappear like that. So yes, this I really dig the use of your sample and how it opens and ends and concludes the track. You have a lot of beautiful moments in the production, and just in case you're just joining us, I always just want to remind you if you have something specific you're looking for, let us know. Um, so one of the things, the vocals in the beginning, those like very breathy vocals in the very beginning, you might want to be careful. Um, you might want to look around 4,000 to 8,000 hertz. So let me, you have some kind of sharp frequencies that you need to tame a little bit. that I think might kind of pop out a little bit on a big sound system and be a little hurtful, or even on like little speakers. So you might want to take, this is a what we call a bell filter. I love bell filters. I probably use bell filters the most. Why is it a bell filter? Well, it's a bell filter because, I mean, it kind of looks like a bell. This was what we would call our bandwidth, the width at which frequencies are being affected by. And what's cool about bell filters or parametric EQs, ooh, lots of words. Same thing, parametric EQ sounds even more fancy. It's kind of like coronavirus versus COVID-19. Parametric EQ, bell filter, right? So parametric EQ sounds pretty dope. I mean, it's just very flexible, parametric. So it's a lot of movement. I can boost and I can attenuate. So with this track, with those vocals in the beginning, I felt like the frequencies were a little sharp. Those frequencies sometimes sharp frequencies somewhere around 4 to 8,000. So you want to take this bell filter. There's two ways to go about it. If you're not finding it, you can tighten the bell, and this is the first technique my mixing and mastering professor taught me that still lives with me today. Classic technique. I'm tightening what's called the Q. Here's my Q. Look at my mouse over here. Tight Q, wide Q. If you can imagine, more frequencies, less frequencies. And you take this bell-shaped filter and you scan it. And the moment your ears kind of bug out, it's called a whistle tone, which is around that range I'm giving you. That's where you usually want to then come to your gain and just kind of back it off a little bit. So you got some kind of whistle tones in that voice that you could bring down a little bit. Okay. I don't know if you were here for the first track with Scott's track. Similar advice with the mix. You need to calm down the low frequencies a little bit, the low to mid frequencies a little bit. The section where the synth starts coming in right here, okay? I'm very excited and really enjoying, and the track captivates me. When the synth comes in, it's a great transition. It's very kind of seamless. It just kind of goes. I'd be curious, is there any room to develop the drums a little bit for when that synth comes in? Because at that point, I feel like something is getting a little exhausted, and it's probably the rhythm section that's maybe a little bit more repetitive by that point. So when that new synth comes in, I feel like if you maybe develop the percussion a little bit to accompany that synth transition, that tonal transformation that you have that carries the track forward in a very smooth way, maybe add some shakers or whatever it is. Maybe can you intensify, can you increase the rhythmic repetition with shakers or percussion or secondary instruments that are more in the background, just kind of just bring it forward. I think that would help carry that final section forward. So that was one area that I felt could maybe just subtle. I'm not asking for much. But other than that, it was really fresh. I felt like it had a very unique um, voice to you as an artist. I know I'm just, getting a sense of the music, but it has a very unique sound to you. And I feel like that can be a challenging thing to acquire to get that. So a really great way, really awesome use of your vocals or whatever vocals in the sample. Really airy track. One last thing, sorry, your side chains. I was like listening, I was like, oh, I was trying to see if we could get, I think the subtractive EQing in the low end is going to help. And sometimes side chains, I think you have it. I was trying to hear your pumping. I think it's there. If it's not, look into sidechain compression. And if it is there, maybe try to raise the release a little bit on the compressor. I feel like you can have it suck around the kick a little bit more because I feel like the kick could pop a little bit more. If you don't have sidechain compression, I'm looking at my phone to see what we got submission wise. Okay, we're doing all right. We'll get everyone in time. So yeah, sidechain compression, we talked about the last feedback session. If you have it going on, look at your release, turn it up a little bit, and it might just kind of dance around the kick a little bit more tighter. Great track, great submission, really digging it. Thank you so much for sharing your music. The Andalusian. I probably just screw it up more and more every time. I'm going to stop saying it. Maybe you can give us a shout out. I apologize for butchering your artist name. Very, very great track. Awesome. We are going to now return to Diane Parker, who we were downloading our track, and it's all good. Like for me, I'll share WAV files with DJs that are going to play the tracks out and stuff like that. But when you're sharing your music with an artist or even a label, or in this kind of situation, um, I highly recommend just you should use an MP3. All right, let's find this track. The function. Oh man, oh boy. And that was my sister. Okay, so I'm just seeing this now. Thomas, did that go through? Sorry, the chat. Did the iTunes audio not go through? Did you guys not just experience that track with me? Let's see, we got about 30 seconds of space time between us. So I'm checking in with my boy Thomas at 343 Labs to make sure. I don't know what kind I'm looking also. Oh, that's quick. I don't know why the chat here, it's like ghost writing. It's like the most faint chat ever. So iStream, if you're spying on us, man, Can you give us better font? I can't read anything. All right, let me know. iTunes, did you guys just hear that track from Diane Parker? Your iTunes is muted or we can't hear it. Oh, let's see. Oh, so sorry, guys. That is so annoying that we just all sat there for that period of time. That was our first glitch on my end. Um, let's see. So the function.wav. Okay, well, I'll just talk about the feedback. I'll play it. We'll just play a little bit. I want Diane just to have a second. Just let me know, guys, if this comes through. I'm just gonna play a little bit, Diane. I'm so sorry. All right, Diane Parker, so sorry that your track got interrupted and we only caught a snippet of it, but I have heard it 1.5 times, so I tend to share some thoughts on it. Dope track, everyone. Thank you so much. Everyone's sharing some solid work, and I know it's tough sharing your music and with other people, so thank you for sharing. The Function, Diane Parker. So let's talk about this track a little bit. Now, it's always similar. It's like the most common thread um, from Scott Vincent's track to Sonia's track. Um, EQing is like I love EQing because it's so straightforward. So there's some EQing you're gonna have to do, and I always usually am like, yo, the low mids is usually an area that I suggest going to. And although you need some cutting in that area, more importantly, your cymbals, anything metallic, your cymbals have, and this happens a lot with samples or whatever the pack is or whatever it is that, wherever you got it from or if you recorded it, but often cymbals, especially if it's from like a sample pack, they get really hype or maybe you EQ'd it. Sometimes we get really excited with cymbals and we boost them. Let me make sure. Let me make sure you guys are seeing my screen. Yes, you are. Okay, so just be careful. Similar to Sonia's track, where I was like around 4 to 8K. You have a similar area with metallic sounds. So your metallic sounds, your cymbal sounds, you have to cut. You have to do that technique where you're going to maybe tighten the Q. If you have an Apple computer, you can hold down Option, click and hold, and get a tighten. You'll find it. And the moment it like gets really piercing is where you're going to find it, and then you're going to want to just bring it down. Often, to be very accurate, instead of dragging it down directly here, I go to my gain and roll it down. Okay, so yes, I think a little bit of room keeping with your mix, with your lows and your low mids would be helpful. Okay, and most importantly, you got to calm down those cymbals. Okay, really dope track. The flute sample in the middle of the track, we actually kind of heard that out of context, and it sounded fine. And it could just be fine, and you could just say whatever. I don't care what you are saying, Adam. I'm just going to use it. I don't know if you're playing that flute, and if you are, great. It sounds like a sample, or it just sounds like. So basically, that placement of the flute for me, like I get it, it works. It just feels like it was a decision where you're like, this sounds good right here, okay? And it has the vibe. It has the vibe of the track. Like it fits into it, and it does work. And I love just kind of surprising people and not playing by the rules. The rules being like, oh, you have to like introduce that idea and make it cohesive and make it all unified. Like sometimes I'm just like, hey, you know what, sorry, I'm gonna do whatever, and you can just do that. But that flute sample felt a little too much like, oh, I found this cool thing, it does fit, but it sounded, that's like, I kind of felt like I felt that decision process. um Oh, of course. I'm still learning. Don't even. Are you kidding me? Like I'm learning every single day. Every 3 to 4 months I'm learning new stuff. Every 3 to 4 months I look back and I'm like, what? So we're all learning and we are all still learning. Um, so yeah, those are just simple things. This is mixing. Mixing is the most common because producing, we have to learn how to produce. We have to learn all the ins and outs of Ableton. That's a lot. Then we have to have good ideas. That's a lot. Then we have to know how to do like sound design. And then we have to learn how to mix. There's all these layers of a music producer. Yeah. So, hope, nope, flute is disassembled. Yeah. So, um, mixing is like one of those things that be starting off takes time. It takes a lot of time to get comfortable with, and it's often one of those things that really, it's gonna take a few years like everything else. So please know that we're all learning. I'm learning every day. So that is my feedback. Really dope vibes. Oh, the vocals, your vocals, really nice. Maybe you can make them. I feel like you want them to be kind of in the back and subtle. I'd be curious if you could pop them a little bit. Try overdrive. I don't know if you're using Ableton Live. Try overdrive as an audio effect. So exactly. And not only am I still learning, I even at my level of Ableton Live, there's sometimes where I feel like I don't even know what I'm doing, and I suck. So just know that it doesn't even stop, even for me. So let's leave it at that. Diane Parker, thank you so much. I apologize for the glitch, but I hope my feedback helped out. Don't take it like too tough. Just know that we're always learning, and EQing is a great tool, very powerful tool. So check out the EQ, check out your low ends, check out your cymbals, and maybe try to massage that flute in the intro somehow, or try to work with it. Things that I really love: the vibe of the track, the synths, the sound design. I really like this. You had this cool distorted like guitar thing. I don't know what it was. It sounded awesome. And I really liked your chopped up. You had like these gated moments that were really cool. So a lot of really great things going on in the track. So it's awesome. Great. Thank you so much, Diane. We are gonna move on. I believe we have uh I believe we have one more. Let me just make sure. One, two, three, four. Yeah, we got one more. And of course, I am going to, oh, I've mistakenly sent another one of your emails. All right, what do we got? Nawe Diggs. All right. Um, find find you feedback. I believe this is up here. It is. Here's a better link. That is right. Okay, here. Sorry, I'm looking at the screen, staring at you guys. You guys are like, what the heck is going on? Okay, Here is my song for review. I am a singer on the track. I am looking how to make the vocal production and the production of the song to sound the best. Ah, yes, awesome. All right. Okay, now, Wei, I hope I am saying your name properly, and if I'm not, I apologize tremendously. We got producer Excalibur Zero on this. All right, let's see what we got. And I'm gonna pay attention to the chat, or Thomas just text me immediately if we are not um, getting the audio. Oh, the track was removed. Let's go back. Track was removed. Okay. Maybe this is it.
Where you finally found it, yeah. No, I understand it when I finally buy it. Ain't no question about it. When you know you found it, when you know, when you know, when you know you found it. Walking through this journey, and I know I see it, and it's so impatient, but I know you need it. I can see it, and I know. When you never lost love cause you never felt it, it'll be a burden we'll carry together. Yeah, it's us together, figure out our language. No, it won't be easy, but you'll understand me. Wanna know you now and show you understand it. You've been there before, here before, yeah. Now we found our peace, you'll be here with me. No, I understand it when I finally buy it. Ain't no question about it. When you know you found it, when you know you found it. Yeah. Walking through this journey, and I know I see it, and I'm so impatient, but I know you need it, and I know you need it. Not a fairy tale, and no, it won't be perfect, but it'll be our story we'll carry together. I can tell my girls, tell your crew, yeah, we finally found it. So many people scared to say they want love, need love. Why is that? Yeah, we've been there before, here before, but when you come, you'll be that peace. You won't understand it when I finally buy it. Ain't no question about it. When you know you found it, when you know that you found it. Ain't no question about it. Through this journey, and I know I see it, and I'm so impatient, but I know you need it. But I know, and I know you need it. Thinking about you always, stranger that I meet. I see you in my vision, in my dream, in my heart. I don't know where to go. I don't know. No, I understand it when I finally buy it. Ain't no question about it. When you know you found it. Ooh, when you know. When walking through this journey, and I know I see it, and I'm so impatient, but I know you need it. When you never lost love cause you never felt it. When you never lost love cause you never felt it. You never felt it, yeah. When you never felt it, you know when you see it. When you never felt it, yeah.
All right, awesome. Thank you so much, Na Wei. Na Wei. That was a dope track. Find You. So let's talk about it. She's asking, she's the vocalist on the track, wants to know a little bit about the vocal production, if there's any tips about the vocal production and the production itself. We're always trying to sound better, right? So I totally get that. And we're going to go, a few minutes over. Obviously, you guys can go if you got to go, but if you want to hang out, this is the last feedback we're going to do. And I just want to talk a little bit about the vocal production. So first off, in the beginning, Not throughout the whole song. Only in the beginning, your voice was too low. The instrumental, the music was overpowering too much. I thought it was imbalanced. So that's just basic gain staging, or maybe even EQing. So I thought in the early stages of the track, the vocals were way too muffled. Overall, I think the vocals are just muffled in general. Um, the mix, man, mixing is tough and it is a make or break. Of course, mixing, don't just think you're going to hire a mixing engineer and magically the song is just going to sound amazing. It's all about the ingredients. I am going to curse right now and I apologize, but my mixing professor told me you can't make chicken soup or chicken salad with chicken shit, right? So when it comes to mixing, I'm not saying go hire a mixing engineer and all of a sudden everything's gonna sound better. And I'm not saying this is the issue either. Just know that depending on what's in the track, the kick, the snare, the quality of the sound design, the vocal mic that you use, from the beginning, the process of how you record can be tremendously important. So if you don't have good ingredients, don't expect a good mixing engineer, a good mix to save the track. So that's the coolest thing about mixing is a great track. If it's a decent mix, it doesn't matter. It's still a great track. If the vibe is there, it's more important. If the track is horrible and it's the best mix in the world, it's still a horrible track. So but ultimately, when it comes to striving and when it comes to like starting off, it's often the mix that we struggle with because again, it's a whole other skill set. That's why you have music producers and people will overlap. Like I'm a music producer and I'm a mixing engineer, but you do have individual people that just focus on mixing or mastering and things like that. So back to your voice. The voice overall felt muffled. I feel like I don't know if you're mixing it or if the producer, I would imagine the producer is mixing it. I feel like the way your doubles or however many layers you have, they need to be treated a little bit differently. I think your mids there's too much middle, your low mids and mids in general need to be cut. So here, let me show you guys my vocal chain. Again, this is gonna be like hypothetical. Hypothetical meaning I'm not playing anything, right? You're just gonna see it. My vocal chain. I'm gonna talk about some stuff that I don't think needs to be happening in this track, but I usually DS my vocals first, especially if it's a female vocalist. De-essing syllabus sounds. Those sounds can get more intense. We want to usually compress, maybe saturate the vocals, give them more power. Those sounds, if we don't address them in the beginning, they become more painful. So a de-esser is a compressor that will start to compress those kind of whistle tones around 4 to 8,000 hertz. So this will specifically push those tones down. So I will address my S's. I usually like to cut. Now, I'll follow that cutting technique that we talked about in the earlier feedback, where I'll find that spot where I lose the vibe of the whatever I'm EQing. Across the board, Nawe, is you need to cut out some lows. You need to maybe cut your mids. I think your mids are a little much. It sounds a little nasally. Maybe cut around 700, 800 is usually where nasalness might be the microphone. I feel like you could use some more air. Air is up here. I love this. This is a high shelf filter. I think you need some more air. Okay. What I would recommend, I'm just doing this one, I would recommend doing this on one of the vocals, and I would recommend on your backings or your doublings, maybe EQ it a little bit differently because your layers are kind of tonally, they're kind of clashing. The takes are a little too similar. They almost sound like they duplicated it. So sonically, I think if you just kind of EQ the different takes, EQ them a little bit differently, they're gonna kind of mold together smoother. Okay, so I felt like you're layering the vocals, your mids are a little overpowering. You can use some more air. Okay, you might want to consider. I mean, it sounds like they're pushed. The compress. I don't know. They sound a little over pushed with the compression. Two possible scenarios I would consider: saturator or overdrive. And these are distortions, and just like Instagram, you use saturation to make things pop. You're gonna want to try this out. This I love using this on vocals. I use it on vocals almost every track. This will help kind of push the voice a little bit more forward. I think the voice needs to pop a little bit more. Overdrive, I might turn on the overdrive, pop it up to give it air. Air is just like this really, it sounds like your voice would really benefit with air. It sounds like your voice thrives in air. I would have to see first, of course, but from my intuition of hearing your voice, I feel like I would want to pop it there. I think your voice, and that's an area that I always go to see. It's kind of like an area, it's like, oh, is the air going to sound good? And when it's there, it sounds great. I would also maybe calm down my dry wet to like anywhere between 1 to 10%. Okay. So some EQing, de-essing, saturation, that's going to help. Now, we don't want to just focus on your voice. The producer, I think whoever's mixing this, they also need to kind of clean things up as well. The entire mix feels just a little too, the time-based effects need to calm down. These are all repetitive. All these problems have been almost a constant issue with all the tracks we've heard. The reverbs are too high. The tails of the reverbs are too long. The delays could be a little bit tighter. Your low end could be a little bit tighter. Okay. The vocals are muffled. The vocals can pop. I would recommend maybe pulling down the instrumental a little bit and also maybe carving out some space in the instrumental. Subtractive EQing. You want to do subtractive EQing before additive. I'm going to hop into the chat. That'd be hilarious. If I really hate, I can't really see the chat. Anyway, so that was where I'm at. Let's just conclude it. The performance is tight. There were moments where I felt it was stronger. Some of the takes were stronger than others. I didn't feel like every single take was the strongest, or there's something about some of the takes that I felt didn't quite fit, whether it was like the way they're fitting into the track or just the way that they were delivered. It might have been the way they were delivered, because later as the track progressed towards the end, I really felt the energy and the clicking. It felt really good. So there were some phrases that I personally would want to go back. Maybe you did multiple takes and maybe he can comp the other takes and see what's going on. Overall, great track. Everybody, best thing you could do, keep making music. Keep making music. You're going to be frustrated. I don't know. I'm like, I actually just put out an album yesterday. Just got released on Wonder Wheel Records. This is my third record out in the world. This is the first record that I made that I'm actually proud of. Okay, it took me about 10 years to make a record that I'm actually proud of. So constantly striving for a better sound. It's always something that you're going to be working for. And however frustrated you get with a track, as long as you finish it, that's the best thing you can do. Don't worry. That next track, your favorite track is going to get there. And I'm not saying that I'm just speaking in general. I just want you guys to like, if you get down with your music and you're like, oh, it's just not good enough, I'm not good enough. Guess what? The only way you get better is just to keep on making it. Don't get hung up on old tracks that you're not happy with. Just make a new one and then make a new one. 10 tracks, of those 10 tracks, maybe one of them is good. So I'm going to leave it at that. Thank you so much, everybody, for hanging out. My name is Atropolis. I'm an Ableton Certified Trainer here at 343 Labs. We'll be doing this every Saturday from 1 p.m. to 2 p.m. And submit your tracks to Atropolis at 343labs.com. Check out our everyday. We got something going on. We got free information everywhere. If you want to go deeper, 343labs.com. Check out our online courses, our virtual classes where you can hang out with me directly just like this. Or we got our physical classes in Berlin if you're in Europe, and our New York City classes are going to be open in July. So thanks for joining us. Thank you, everybody, for submitting. My apology for butchering anybody's name. I can't read, period. So my name is Atropolis. It's been a real pleasure, and I really enjoyed listening to everybody's track. Thank you so much for hanging with us. I will see you guys. I'll see you guys next week.